Michael is in Hendon. Michael, good evening. You're on Talk Sport.
Hello?
Yes, Michael, good evening.
Yeah, I would like to say is that the guy we had on is called James.
No, Paul Rogers.
Was it James, the person you had on?
Paul Rogers.
He was rather simplistic. You know, the war which Israel is now fighting is basically the war against terror. The war which started on September 11th and many years before, and that's what Israel is doing. Israel didn't start the war, and I know you're going to say, you know, we have to look to the future, but Israel can't make a ceasefire unless it's going to be clear on its borders. If they make a ceasefire, just, you know, they can say very, very good, you know, listen to the UN, make a ceasefire, then the next few years they'll start to arm again the Hezbollah, and it'll be back to square one.
So what happens now?
Just to stop the war. We all want the war to stop.
But how is it going to be stopped if that's the attitude?
Well, the attitude is it has to be stopped. That is Hezbollah. Listen, we are Western countries. We live in England, America. We're in the West, France even. We're Western countries. We have to fight against Muslim fundamentalism. And I think that Islam, right, Muslim fundamentalism and the West is like two opposites of magnets. You know what I mean? They can't get together. So the future is, if there is a ceasefire, at least the ceasefire has to be that Hezbollah will be disarmed and will not shoot back. You know, it's against what's the war on terror.
But that isn't part. That is not part. Are you listening or not?
Because we're fighting.
You're not listening, are you? No, you're not listening. The whole issue with regard to the resolution passed last night is that there is no requirement for Hezbollah to be disarmed by an international force. Are you saying that should have been part of the resolution? You're just not listening at all,
in a couple of years' time, they'll be shooting Katyushas. Do you read that? I don't think the listeners realise that there's over 1 million Israelis who are not living in their houses. The press is anti-Israel. BBC is anti-CNN. Nobody understands that Israel are suffering as well.
Everybody understands the suffering. It's happening to innocent people on both sides. And unless there is a ceasefire, those people will continue to suffer, continue to lose their lives in a senseless and mindless manner.
Yeah, but you're right. You can have a ceasefire, but it's got to be a ceasefire. It's like saying, you know, how can you make a ceasefire with terrorists? These people are the same type of people, except they're the Hezbollah. Here they're the British-born subjects who have turned to fundamentalism. How can you make us? How can you trust them? How can we are West? We're living in a democracy in England. We understand that to change governments, we have every 4 years a general election. America and France, and all democracies. These people are not democracies. So what are you going to do? You're going to make a ceasefire tomorrow. Very nice. It'll all be beautiful. They'll stop. And what's going to happen in a few months? What's going to happen in a few years? We'll be back to square one. I don't think personally that it's possible to make a ceasefire with terrorists.
So what do you think? What do you think should happen then?
What should happen? What should happen is we should get rid of the war of terror. We have to get rid of fundamentalism from the world, and that's what.
Now, in practical terms,
these,
for
maybe 20,
sake.
maybe 50, maybe hundreds of people.
Vaccinated with the Gramophone needle.
It's a hate. What basically is, it's a hatred of democracy. It's a hatred of the West. I heard on your radio station and other radio stations, people phoning up, young Muslims phoning up, and saying the reason why it's happening is because the reason why these people, that's the people who have planned this major terror on planes, is because Israel is bombing Lebanon. What do you mean? And we hate the West. What? Because these people hate the West, we're going to bomb innocent people going to New York.
All you're doing is repeating what other people have said. I'm asking you a specific question. You don't seem to have an answer. The question is quite clear. No, if it's not going to stop, as you've said, are you vaccinated with the Gramophone needle or what?
I think democracy.
Goodbye.
Islam.
If you're not going to listen and have a discussion, there's no room here for a monologue from you, which has been, all you're doing is repeating what other people have said. If you hold an opinion, you hide it very well. Repeating other people's opinions, which have been expressed time and time again, and far more lucidly than you were doing, is pointless. If what you say is what you truly believe, then the only process that you could approve of is that everyone should now turn against Hezbollah, and the fight should be continued in that way. Meanwhile, people will continue to lose their lives, pointlessly and senselessly. There has to be wiser counsel on both sides. Surely neither want to continue killing pointlessly and senselessly and gaining no advantage. However you regard them as terrorists, or one man's terrorist, I'm reminded, is another man's freedom fighter. Whatever you regard these people as being, they are human beings. They represent other human beings. Other lives are dependent upon the way they perform and react. And they can't go on like this. Israel is running short of certain ammunition. Hezbollah will eventually run short of rockets. They will undoubtedly be rearmed by their sponsors. There's Paul Rogers, who you incredibly managed to insult. He's a professor of peace studies. It is his job to know what he's talking about. Said earlier in the programme, at which point the war will become clearly a proxy war between Iran and the United States. So the people that should be talking are the Iranians and the United States. The chances of that happening, from anybody's reading of the current situation, is zero. The Iranians certainly wouldn't be a choice that George Bush would choose to talk to, even if the Iranians were prepared to talk to George Bush, which it would seem very unlikely that they would be willing to do. So this is going to go on. As Paul said, the earliest possible ceasefire will be in about 36 hours. But his forecast is that it'll be 3 to 4 weeks before any international force can intervene, and the international force is no longer obliged by a UN resolution to disarm Hezbollah. So the one thing I would agree with that you said is this is going to go on. And it's going to go on and on and on, because there currently seems to be no solution.